The 3-5 profile, the Martyr Heretic in traditional human design, or as I like to say, the experimenter disruptor. You are a visionary here to change the way we see the world. You are a well of knowledge, and you acquire this knowledge through your experimentations. You are curious, resilient, and have a deep capacity to thrive. You bring a new lens with which we can see the world when you are called upon. A gift to humanity to bring ease into the lives of others, a better way to do things. You are influential, a leader, here before your time. But your time will come and you will answer the call, and you will be seen in all of your power as you disrupt the way things have always been done in order to bring some new, something better to the lives of those around you. All right, let's dive in to the 3-5 profile. So, as you may or may not know, I am a 3-5 profile, and I have many wonderful 3-5s in my life currently. And these are people who are here to dance through life, bumping into things. They take the long road. And the reality is that the third line is the transition between the lower hexagram and the upper hexagram. It's known as the stairs. And this is really where we make material in the world. You know, the third line doesn't need others in order to fulfill its destiny, while the fifth line, the disruptor, is recognized as someone who is here with the capacity to help. You know, the fifth line needs other people in order to fulfill their destiny. So when these two lines come together to make a profile, they're fearless, they're resilient, they change the way that things have always been done in order to pave a new way, something innovative, creative, influential. And the 3-5 dances through life with trial and error, experimentation. They take the long road, and they use their power, quote unquote. This comes from the fifth line, magnetism and attractiveness, air quotes, because fifth lines don't always feel that way, for the greater good. And so when we look at this is kind of the transition point. The third line transitions between the lower, the first floor, and the second floor. And these are people who are here to experiment in the world, and they go through a lot of trial and error. And this can lead them to really feeling like a quote unquote failure. Their experimentation process is not part of their identity. It's just simply how they move throughout the world. And that was one of the biggest aha moments for me when I learned about being a 3-5, because I was carrying a lot of guilt and shame. And for me, learning that I moved through the world with trial and error was a very helpful thing. It allowed me to create kind of this little bit of separation between all of the bumps and bruises and failed experiments and things that I had tried and hadn't worked out. And the reality is that's true for all third lines. They're here to take the long road, the unpaved road, and they do that so that they can gain wisdom for the people in their lives. And so they bump into things, they learn something new, and then they improve the world around them. And I always like to say it's not a matter of if a third line is going to get tackled when they go out into the world. It's just a matter of when. And then we have the fifth line, right? And the fifth line is that addict. And that's really, you know, the fifth line is really the highest universalizing power in terms of all of the lines in human design. And these are people who other people project their hopes and dreams and expectations on them. You know, people love to just bask in the aura of a fifth line, and particularly a 3-5, because that is the highest expression of the lower trigrams. And so that fifth line, when aligned, is magnetic and selfless and attractive and influential when they answer the correct projections. And so when we bring these two profiles together, they're harmonic, but there's a lot of dichotomy that exists because, you know, the third line bumps into things and can be labeled a failure and can be projected on as a failure. And then that fifth line, you know, people don't always get to see the true person. You know, so these are people who can kind of be pessimistic about life. And, you know, the fact that other people put their stuff onto them all the time. And the reality is they are here to kind of get into the ring of life. They are here to experience through trial and error, and they're here to get onto the playing field of life, right? But the reality is these are people who have a lot of depth and a lot of wisdom from experience. They can see faster than the other profiles what's going to work and what's not. They also have this theme of bonds made and broken, so they may need to like renegotiate their relationships a lot. And there's really this idea of like, are you with me as a 3-5? Because what they're here to disrupt is not for everyone, right? Because these are resilient people. They challenge the status quo, they disrupt, and they see a better way to do things, and they really bring like discipline to chaos. But they not everyone sees them for who they are, right? And as a result, they often have this deep capacity to really be able to handle whatever life throws at them, both the good and the bad. And they sort through those things, and they often can kind of pull out some learning, and they bring new light and they bring new wisdom to a new way of doing things. And the reality is they universalize something, right? They're here to universalize something. They're here to bring something together in a new way when every other way has failed. So their message as a 3-5 is not everyone's ready to hear that message, right? And that's really important, where understanding your strategy and authority and honoring that as a 3-5 becomes really important. It becomes really critical, because these are people, they're adaptable, they're fluid, they're bendable, they're resilient, and they thrive in chaos, right? And they see a different way to do things, which is often better, but they have to be kind of called or invited to bring that practicality to the table. Otherwise, they will, quote unquote, get burned at the stake. And these are people with their innovative ways of doing things. They often have profound discoveries. They have massive growth. They create great change in the world. But they have to be really careful about who and when they share it, because their ideas can seem really radical to other people. And they have to be called in when other things have failed. I look at my own business, and I think about my life pre-human design and my agency, and I would share these things, and in hindsight, I could see that people weren't ready to receive those ideas. And now with human design, I wait, right? I wait for that invitation. But I really, like, over and over again, I'm coming in on a daily basis these days for people who are tired of doing business in a homogenized way, who are tired of the one-size-fits-all approach to building an online business. And they really want to kind of revolutionize the way that things are done. Those are the people that are ready to hear my message. But if there's somebody who's like, I'm happy in my, XYZ way of doing things, I'm happy in my pressure launch way of doing things, they're not going to be ready to hear my message. And therefore, what will happen is they'll often burn me at the stake, because they're not ready to hear that, right? And the reality is, as a 3-5, it's really important to get very clear on what your values are. Like, what are you willing to be burned at the stake for? Because with this profile, you're gonna bump into things. So it's not a matter of if you, quote unquote, get burned at the stake. And that's Ra's language. Think of that as like your reputation is gonna get bruised, particularly in the business world. But you're fearless, right? Like you're here to do things in a new way. So you have to go through these cycles of experimentations and failures and disappointments, so that you can step into your role as a leader, a visionary, and really like help people do extraordinary things. Like, you shine a light on new things, you bring new values and possibilities and beliefs, and you're often very generous and selfless and determined. But it's not a matter of if you're going to get tackled by life. Life is going to tackle you, and oftentimes you're going to dust yourself up and keep going. You have this grittiness about you. You have this resilience and this capacity to endure and explore and learn and discover. But the reality is, you will eventually get burned at the stake. So establishing core values for you is a really important thing for those who are 3-5s. Because this can help them discern, like, is this the right person for me? Is this the right person to have in my life? Is this the right person to support in my business? Because they're clear on what their values are. And I think that's where it can kind of get muddy for 3-5s. I know for me, I've gotten really clear on my core values, and it has changed the game for me. And so the thing here is, in some of the challenges that are present here are many. They're going to get labeled. You're going to get labeled as a failure, as a 3-5. Yet that's how you move about the world. You're also going to get projected on. People are going to never actually truly see you, so you may need to actually repeat yourself multiple times. I highly recommend as a 3-5 that you reframe your relationship with quote unquote failure. Particularly because many 3-5s are shamed early on for their mistakes, and so they can often feel unworthy or feel like they're not enough. But the reality is, like, as a 3-5, you're here to move about the world through trial and error. It's not who you are, it's how you experience the world. And so learning to dance with that is really important. So give yourself and those in your life like the heads up, I need lots of space and grace. And you may also find, many 3-5s that I've worked with, they're often stripped of their innocence really early. They get blamed for things. They're projected on. They take on more responsibility before they're ready. And they often carry those wounds into adulthood. And learning to reclaim your power and your capacity as a 3-5 becomes really important. And I think the other piece that's important to understand is that, most people never truly see the whole of a 3-5. They're deep, they're a well of experience, they have a lot of awareness, they're curious, they have a lot of wisdom. And for them to really live at their highest expression and embrace that power and answer the correct calls, they have to be really clear on what their values are. What are they willing to go out into the world and get burned at the stake for? What are they willing to go out into the world and experiment with? Because they will get tackled on the field of life, and they're here to be in the ring. You're here as a 3-5 to be in the ring of life. You're here to get down, lock arms with people and experience stuff. You're here to lead out in front, let me blaze the trail. And so the reality is not everybody's going to see that because they're too busy projecting on you. They're too busy basking in the aura of you and projecting their own hopes and dreams, their own expectations on you. So being really clear about what you're willing to get out into the field of life for and to fight for becomes really important. So some questions that you can ask a 3-5 profile: what did you learn from your experience? Is this something that you're actually willing to come in and save the day on? Is this your fight? Is it worth fighting for? Have you established your core values or principles? Where are you labeling yourself a failure? What is the lesson you will take with you from this experience? What is a better way to do X? Am I actually willing to be burned at the stake for this? Who is part of my community? Who is with me? Am I being labeled and projected on, or is this something that I actually want to do? Where might I be giving my own power away? And am I doing something I believe in, or because I think I should, or because so-and-so said I'm good at it? And then lastly, am I owning my role as a leader and a visionary? Thank you so much for tuning into the 3-5 profile. We'll catch you on the next one.